Awesome, welcome back. So what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today, and you're going to laugh because we're going to skip through quite a bit of the first part, is how to create a digital marketing plan for 2017, tying in some of the elements that we had today. So as I drop things all over the place, because that's just what I do. So let's just kind of skip for a minute and get to the important stuff. Yes, thanks, Lucy. Okay. You guys have some handouts on your desk when you came back from break. And if you were like me, you said, what is this garbage on my laptop? And you threw it to the side. So I want you to take it out and take a look at it now. Okay, the first one, probably the most important thing before we get in, and I know Anil will cover this too, is the digital survey. Really, really important feedback. We take this feedback very seriously, and it helps us define next year's conference. I'd highly recommend on the back there's a session on the closing. Fives would be greatly appreciated, and we can talk about buying drinks at the bar in exchange, but really, we really want your feedback. There's two other documents that we're going to cover, and I'm going to walk through Excel online. So bear with me here for a second. Awesome. Okay, for those of you, and I know this might be a little hard to read, but you can follow along the line. For those of you that were here last year, we created a digital marketing checklist based on a lot of the education and the things that you learned. We've updated it this year, so there's a few things that are different. So if you have last year's version, this one's got a few little minor updates. And basically how this works, this is a cheat sheet or a document that you can take back to your hotels and talk through some of the learnings that you had today. And as you start to game plan for 2017, what should you be doing and where should you be spending your money? We'll get to that part in a minute. How it works, it's pretty straightforward. And in the interest of disclosure, Tammy didn't follow directions. So this is not on your little USB, but we'll be handing it out. You guys will be getting an email with this in the next day or so, because salespeople don't read and salespeople don't follow directions, and I'm a salesperson, so hey. So basically, the checklist and scorecard is set up to be in Excel to be very easy to use. And so you go through and you just ask yourself the basic questions on here. Things related to your goals. Have you established your goals? Have you thought about your market mix? What kind of hotel are you? Are you a leisure market hotel, predominantly business? Do you get a lot of weekends? Do you get a lot of midweek? And start really thinking about and identifying the goals. Then you want to go through each section. So let's say here, the website, right? Is my website responsive and able to capture mobile traffic? It's pretty darn simple. If it's relevant to you, you put a 1. And in this case, this is an easy one. Either you are or you aren't. So let's put a 5. Let's say we are. And you just go down the list. Is my site optimized? We have sections on content. We have sections on website design. As you turn the pages, there'll be sections on social media, sections on paid search to really help you think through the strategy for your hotels for next year to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to stay ahead of the curve and stay ahead of the digital landscape so that you're driving as much business as you can through your hotel websites, through your direct channels. So that's one tab on this document. Got rave reviews on this last year. I'd love to take credit. Anil's really the one that put this together last year. Tons of work. I just went in and tweaked and optimized and updated a few things to make sense for this year. The second tab on here is a sample marketing budget. And many of my customers and my sales team is very familiar with this document because we do a lot of these every year. Okay, hold on. Sorry, my mouse is... Okay. So the sample marketing budget is set up, it's a 2-page document, and it's set up in the same way. I know a lot of my customers really like this because it helps as you guys prepare your budgets for next year. You can go through month by month, and similar concept. You go through each of the line items, it's broken down, you have all of your website stuff. Do you have a responsive website? Do you need to budget for one? Just a thing to note, you go in and type in what you think it's going to cost you to have a website next year. And, sorry guys, bear with me, technical. I just wanted to point out that the, you can easily fit 5 or 6 digits in those columns. So salesperson here, if you want to put $100,000 into your budget next year for website, I won't be upset and I won't tell anybody. How's that sound? No, I'm kidding. But realistically, what you'll see is each section in here as you follow along. So you've got website. We created a column for additional features. So all those things that we talked about today that you may or may not have on your existing websites that you may want to think about adding. And not even just the ones that you work with Milestone on, but just in general. Do you have updated content? Do you need to budget to have some updated content added? Do you need to think about ways to capture guests who are on property with things like, content around the destination and market to try and help, again, customers first, right? At the end of the day, it is about our customers. And so you go through each one of these sections, you fill out based on when you think you're going to need to spend that. And I've triple checked all the formulas, which means there'll probably be an error at some point, but I've triple checked the formulas. It should all total up for you, and for each section, give you a column, and at the bottom, you'll know what your budget should be for next year for all of your digital marketing expense. So we put this together as a way to really help you guys take what you've learned today, take tactical action steps to be able to really start putting together a plan for 2017. If you have questions, if you want feedback on how to run through the form for any of your properties, again, whether you're with Milestone or not, please let us know. We're happy to help. But other than that, in the interest of time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Anil to close up today's session.
Slides. Well, thank you, Tammy. I've got a few housekeeping items that I'm going to say before I forget those. Please do fill out the surveys. A lot of what you see today is feedback from last year. The number one change we made from last year was we got a lot of requests to move the location to a central area. So we moved it from San Francisco to Chicago. So that came directly out of the feedback forms that people provided. This form, we modified it and altered it, but we got rave reviews on these forms because it gives a tool to everybody who attended here to go back home and look at all their properties. It doesn't matter with or without Milestone. For us, that's not most important. What is most important is you came here, and we appreciate that, and we're giving you a tool to go do the full analysis. It's a very thorough sheet. I don't think we missed anything in there, so if you have that, and some of it may not be relevant to you, so take that out if it's not relevant. And I know, I said, okay, they were asking, when will you speak? And I said, okay, I'll go last, thinking I'll get away easy. And now I'm realizing I have the hardest job. A, because I don't have anything to talk about. People have talked about everything. And B, everybody's angling to get out and get some beer. So I'm going to make it really quick. Okay, I have 5 or 6 summary slides that I'm going to go through or quickly scan through in interest of time. There is nothing in these slides that you haven't heard today, so that's good news. And I can assure you I didn't listen to Tim or I didn't see the presentations from Tim and Robert, and you'll see several of those items reiterated what Bill Hunt talked about, what Benu talked about. I don't quite have what John talked about, but no, I'll make sure next time. All right. So the backdrop I think that we are seeing is, and we're a very firm believer, is OTAs are not enemies, but we are also very firm believer that you need to control your destiny. And there was a question on what's the average market share. So this is out of a Travel Click 360 report from top 50 markets. I do agree with Robert and Tim. There is a lot of variability in the numbers, but there's one sample here of the data. So you can see that web is about 26 to 27%. And we do see that the hotel's web market share is increasing, but OTAs is increasing faster, and that's what you have to worry about because it's coming at the expense of something else. Given that background, what do you need to do? So what did we learn today is the search is going to become more and more personalized. We learned that there's a lot of new channels coming up. I think both all the speakers today, Robert, Tim, Bill, everybody talked about how you're going to be able to more precisely target your guest, and that's a fantastic opportunity, right? And the key challenge for us in the room is hopefully we've given you enough tools, and hopefully we do, for those of you who we work with, we give you enough, we keep moving further down the technology path so that we can do this for you, or whoever you're using, they can do that for you. So the search is going to continue to become more personalized. Search is evolving into artificial intelligence. One of my close personal friends, classmates, he runs search for Google, and he says search and artificial intelligence is the same thing. There is no difference. Because if you think of what search is doing, it's understanding what you're asking and it's giving better and better results each time. Each time you search, you make Google better. So it is artificial intelligence. So what's been happening for the last 10 years is artificial intelligence. It's just now on steroids, what they're doing, and some of the stuff that it's mind-boggling what we see. Google now, I know Robert talked about it, Apple Maps iOS 10. I don't know if some of you followed what's going to happen on iOS 10. It's going to tell you which hotel to stop at. It's going to tell you which restaurants are around your driving route. It's going to tell you which ATM machine you're going to cross. So there's going to be some very fascinating stuff. And there was a question earlier that I'm going to address. Somebody asked in the audience, I think over there, how does Google know what to answer? And I think that was the question that you were trying to ask, right? And how does Apple know what is the best answer? And I'll tell you how they're going to know what's the best answer. Smart personal assistants, Google Assistant, whether it's Siri, Amazon Echo, or Alexa, basically they're going to become the norm. And they're built on the same algorithm as the previous page. So there is a trend here. There is a method to the madness. It's not like all disparate stuff and just suddenly everything is going through the roof. There is a continuation. There's a very distinct continuum. So if you're doing certain things right, you're going to be in this domain. All what is happening here is, there is a voice layer on top of the data layer. Right? So the data layer is still the same as what you do search today, except it's smarter because it's learning every time. Okay. The third thing that you're going to see is voice search, conversational search will continue to dominate. This is a screenshot from Google CEO's keynote speech at Google I/O. And what you'll see is he said 20% of the searches today are voice searches. I would look at that screen, I was looking at that screenshot, and I think half the searches on that page, the colored searches are voice searches. So I think the trend towards voice searches, my kids don't type on the phone, they talk to the phone for simple thing, and sometimes they take twice as long or 3 times as long, but they're still talking to the phone. They don't type. So we're gonna continue to see voice search dominate. We do think chatbots, there was a little bit of conversation on chatbots. We think chatbots today is where search was in 1999 or 2000. So it's early, but it's going to provide another avenue for you to get in front of the customer. 1.5 billion people on Facebook, 900 on Messenger, and that doesn't include WhatsApp. WhatsApp is massive, and especially if you're international, that customer base is just huge. Right, so we passionately believe this is going to be a big opportunity. Not today, not in the next year, but fast forward 2-3 years, you're going to see this. And like everything we've done at Milestone, we do try to get an early mover advantage, and we're going to continue to explore this pretty fast. So the biggest thing is, and that answers the question that somebody in the audience asked, how do I make sure when somebody says best hotel to show in Chicago, with best hotel to stay in Chicago, I show up? The algorithm for that is still the same as search today when you look for best hotels in Chicago. Google is collecting that information. Apple is, if you read iOS specs, the development specs that they've given out, they're reading all of that information from schemas, from structured data. It's an extension of search. Make sure your sites are marked up, not marked up like a little hotel schema, which is what, unfortunately, I see 90% of the hospitality sites, they'll just say it's a hotel or it's an edge card. That's bogus. That's just like really, really, I mean, sometimes I feel embarrassed to be seeing those things because all you're telling is, this is my business card to Google. You're not telling it that, hey, I'm a hotel in this market, this is what I offer, this is what's happening in my market, this is what's happening. So really understanding what this means. Don't make it a checkmark item, make sure you understand what your vendors are doing for you. Okay. And iOS 10 is all structured markup data. So Apple had not used that so far, but in iOS 10, they're using structured markup data. In fact, for those of you who are chains, I know there are some people from chains here. If you have an app, there's a huge opportunity in iOS 10 to connect your website to the app, and then you'll start showing up on search results on app and website. So incredible where this is all headed. Make sure you're visible in all key customer touch points, and sort of like what Tim was saying, it's not mobile, it's about anywhere the customer is. So I'm not talking you need to be on a mobile or desktop or PC, wherever the customer is. If they're on mobile phone, we're gonna be there. If they're gonna be on desktop, we'll be there. If they're on iPad, we'll be there. So you gotta make sure you're there. You gotta make sure that you understand that it's a lot of times like Apple, really, nobody knows Apple buys data from TomTom, Uber buys data from here.com. So all of these guys are buying data from other places. So you gotta make sure you are present in whatever device, whatever channel your customers are. That's the key, and with your data. So you're not relying on booking.com to provide that data, because if you lose that war, then basically all your information is coming from third-party channels. That's what the site which is gonna show up on schematic search, schema search. The last thing here is there is a survey that was done for all the CMOs of major, this is for any location-based business, so hotels, retail, and the major pain point, so the question that was asked was, what do you see as the major challenges for a location-based business going forward? The top two that they identified are basically how the technologies are going to work together. So technology is a big challenge, and how different technologies will work together. The second big challenge they said is analytics. So those are two that we see as problems. We work with 2,000 hotels every day, and we see that as a challenge. And so if you look at where we are driving, what we're trying to do, our technology roadmap is mapping to where the industry is headed. Our goal is to keep all of the people in this room ahead of the game. Our goal is to stay ahead of the game. And we're very fortunate to have a team of very high quality people. You got an exposure to some of those people today. These are people that normally in your day-to-day interactions you don't get to see, but these are the guys who are doing magic behind the scene. They're we're very proud of the smart group of people that we have, and hopefully you got a little bit of a taste of that today. But our number one goal is, how can our customer make more money than our competitor or than their competitor? Well, and all of this conference, all of this innovation, all of this happens because of all of you in the room. So we truly appreciate all you do for us, and hopefully we'll continue to partner for eternity and keep driving forward. Thank you. And the last thing I'll do is give a big round of applause to the Chicago team and Milestone massive marketing team of 3 who pulled this whole conference together. Sarah, Gaurav, Jake, and then all the other people who spoke today. Very good. And the evening is not over yet. There's drinks and there's reception, but there is no more digital marketing from this point on, hopefully. I think we're saturated. You're welcome to discuss that, but we are not going to initiate that conversation. So thank you, everyone, and hopefully you had a great day. Please do fill out the survey. We have a very high bar to keep. Last year, I told you I'll tell you what the survey results were last year. I should tell you. We took 397 votes last year. We've had only 2 of ratings of below 3, and we had only about 12 ratings of 3. So everything was rating excellent to good. So we're hoping we can beat that bar, and if not, we would love to figure out what we need to do next year. But we will be meeting next year again. We'll finalize the location. One of the questions in your handouts is which location, Chicago or Santa Clara. I would love to get your feedback. San Francisco has its charm of Silicon Valley, but Chicago has its charm of travel, and you got to meet all the team members. And we'll see you next year. And I think there's a lot of people who came here for the 3rd year in a row. I think 30, 40% of the people are here 30 in a row, and we'll hope to see you again next year. Thank you.